So if in episode number 3 in Alice in Gothic Land, The Road to Self-Recognition, we talked about some of the Gothic elements in Midnight Mass, such as location, the sublime, and all the elements that started filtering in these other spaces, because this is one of the characteristics of the Gothic, as you saw in episode 3. In episode 4, talking to Tugce Kutlu again, we're going to be analyzing in depth the uncanny and identity. You're going to see also how the otherness filters there. It's unavoidable, and we're going to tell you all about that, not without some humor, not without some serious moments, because we are just a little bit crazy, but that's why you keep coming back to us. There are some surprises, so come and see what those surprises are going to be, because we have some announcements to do as well. So if you are ready to discover the Gothic elements in this Southern Gothic, in American Southern Gothic of Midnight Mass, this episode number 4 is for you, my friends. So I'll see you then. Hello, Tugce.
Hello.
You know,
Hello.
that's a strange name.
Tugce. It's
sounds-
like Che Guevara.
like-
Che Guevara, guys.
Tugce.
Imagine two Che Guevaras. So Tugce.
Oh, that's
Perfect.
true.
It's
And
so
the
easy. It's so easy, guys.
The surname, please.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce the
And
surname?
Kutlu.
So I
Kutlu.
said right. The last video I messed up. I edited it because I called you Cthulhu. Like
Cthulhu. Is that H.P. Lovecraft? Like what? What is going on? Oh my god. It's very Lovecraftian. My surname is very Lovecraftian. I know. I'm aware.
Mine was thinking.
I'm aware. I'm a little bit Lovecraftian.
We're saying an identity crisis right now, because just before we start in part 4, everybody, welcome to Alice in Gothic Land in the Road to Self-Recognition. We are today with Tugce Kutlu, not Cthulhu or Cthulhu or anything like that. We don't do Lovecraft, not yet.
No, not yet.
And before we just opened up the microphones and the camera, we were just talking about the sublime, because this is how we left it. And we were just laughing at our thoughts and our tastes, and Tugce all of a sudden changed her personality. She became this person in Harry Potter.
From Harry Potter universe. I was like, follow me, Mr. Potter. Like, where do you follow me? Where am I going? Like, what the hell?
we were looking at these paintings. I was showing her my sublime painting, and
Very
so
beautiful painting.
exactly.
One
I
of
was,
my favorites as well.
yeah,
Wanderer.
or the wonder over the
Really
sea
good.
fog.
Really good.
Can't get it right, so you can see the reflection. It's a bit distracting, but yeah, because
Exactly.
it's got a glass thing. So yeah, we were saying that that's for me the sublime, and for the
And for
romantic,
me, it's
for Tugce.
this. It's this. I'm setting it on fire. No, this is not actual fire, guys. So, don't try this at home, please. And I was showing her my favorite from Renoir. It's called The Skiff. And as you can see, this is Riley and Erin's final moments.
That's why you like that so much, because you like that painting
Yes.
so much. And
Yes, I know. Like, it isn't the same. Like, really lovely day, lovely people just hanging around the boat, hanging around the skiff, but then suddenly,
one.
fire!
Remember that this we do spoilers, because if not, we won't have so much fun. So we recommend that you either have watched it or that you don't care about having spoilers or not, because going back to this,
Because
he's got these as well, the lantern. So okay, now are you the vampire or the priest? Because look, you've got the torch, so I must be the thing.
I've got the torch.
So then I'm the thing.
I'm hopefully I'm not the monster.
No,
I'm hoping, because I'm the one holding the light. So I must be the priest, right? I must be the I must be the Monsignor. So yeah, because
So,
the vampire. I mean, do I look like the vampire? I hope not. you're like, oh, you look like a vampire a lot.
no, look, I'm the pale one here. So, with these lines, I'm super pale. Yes, after I'm drinking coffee, so I'm the one with the bad breath. So, no growing
Coffee.
yet.
I mean, coffee. Coffee does that to everybody. Coffee does that to everybody. So I drink tea. We have some tea.
And coffee and tea and chin chin for you. So we're going for
Chin chin.
part 4. We're doing part 4 of this mini series about Midnight Mass. Spoilers, lots of spoilers, as you know. But if this is the first time that you land on this video, then you're very welcome to come in our house and leave some of your happiness that you bring with you. So yes, what do we do here?
You won't need that here. You won't need that happiness here.
That's so true. No, because we are all about grief, horror, and we don't cry, but we could do, because there's a lot of things to cry about.
We cry laughing sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. We do that. So what we're doing here, we just interviewing, we're talking, we're learning loads of things. I'm learning loads of things with Tugce in this mini series. We were going to do just one, just to talk about Midnight Mass, but then so many things we can relate to Midnight Mass that we just keep doing programs, and God knows how long we're going to be with this, because we can do a lot of references to a lot of other things in our lives.
Yeah.
So it's like a
we will be 60 years old and still be talking about Midnight Mass.
Can you imagine? With the candle. With the candle.
Me with the candle.
Before we proceed, support us, people. If you're learning, if you're having fun, if you are ticking, your brain is ticking, and you find that this is a place where you can actually work on your fears and your identity, support us on our coffee page, Alice in Gothic Land, romantic number 1402, Valentine's Day. I don't know why coffee decided that, but support us there, and then we can continue creating good stuff for you. And if you were here on episode 3, we mentioned that for those who would like to talk to us live, we are thinking of doing a live event to put together maybe the best moments, the best parts, but also for people to ask questions, maybe you have suggestions of other things you would like to talk about, and bring them to this live event that we will soon tell you when it's going to happen. Then, hey, this is something new, and we will give you all the information. So keep an eye, and this is coming very, very soon. Episode 4. We're going to talk about the uncanny identity, because we will not have time to talk about the supernatural and otherness, I don't think. So I think also we will leave the supernatural is coming into all the other topics, and so is otherness. But I think they need like their own space. And then probably it's going to be episode 5 with those other 2 elements, and episode 6 is going to have to be for characters, even though we're talking about the characters as we're going along, because it's obviously we can't just separate things and chop them up so much that then we get the characters are appearing all the time. But then there are aspects of identity that will come up as the characters as well. So yes, the uncanny. We have to mention our friend Sigmund Freud, that you mentioned him before. And I've called this.
Yeah, I have.
This part, the unfamiliar familiar, because of the series. I know there's a lot.
Unheimlich, heimlich, in German. Let's talk a little bit German for our German friends out there.
Yeah, can you speak German?
We can speak German.
No, I could.
Oh yeah. I did get German in high school for a year. Yeah, I did.
Oh, nice. So we could go to Hallo, wie geht's?
Hallo. Wie geht's dir? Suddenly this turns into a German lesson. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we like languages, so we get multinational here.
Yeah, I love languages so much.
It's good. Yeah, you're right. The Unheimlich. This is actually, I'm going to quote my very good friend as well, Tracy Fahey. I talk about it all the time. She thinks I'm her stalker, but we're really good friends. Because I just talk about it all the time.
Is she aware? Is Tracy aware that you're good friends?
Yeah, okay. She's aware, and we have our accountability group with together with Justin Park, another writer. He's a horror writer and editor, and he's got an editorial as well, a little publishing company. And we do these accountability groups once a month now, and she knows I talk about them all the time. They're like my godparents here. And Tracy has a great book. She's got a few books, in fact, but she's got this one, the Unheimlich, Manoeuvres in the Dark. And she's got a little introductory chapter too, an introduction, and then an introductory chapter, like a mini essay, that she talks about this aspect of the Unheimlich because of her book, and also because of the way she works on the Gothic. And she says that this Unheimlich was based on an essay called On the Psychology of the Uncanny, written in 1906. But this was written by Ernst Jens, who defined the uncanny as a fear of the unfamiliar, and that Freud took this to the next level, saying that the uncanny is in reality nothing new or foreign, but something familiar and old established in the mind that has been estranged only by the process of repression. So some of the motifs, she says, that derive from the uncanny and gave its more poignant characteristics were the doppelgangers, what are all these slides now? Hang on. Doppelgangers, dolls, deja vus, corpses, invisible illnesses, the return of the repressed, homes that are haunted not only by specters, but memories and secrets and anxieties that recur repeatedly. And I love the way she works on these on her books. So I shout here to Tracy and all her books, because they are fantastic. And I will put the links on the on the video as well. So yes, I collected these ideas because of, again, of what we're talking about here today, the Midnight Mass. Yeah. And I can see when I was looking for the information that these elements really resonate with Midnight Mass again. But I'll let you now elaborate on your idea and knowledge of the uncanny, and then we'll complement that if you want.
Of course. I mean, it's a really fascinating thing, Uncanny, and I had to really research it for my dissertation on grief and horror films, because death is also something, decaying bodies, death, and all things that should be familiar to us but are also unfamiliar. And of course, Freud's essay, according to sources, and of course, the essay itself is written in two parts. And the first part, it looks at the words of Heimlich and Unheimlich. You can translate it as homely and unhomely, as it directly translates into English. And I think the essay in the first part, it talks about its uses and how these words are used in other languages. And in the second part, Freud talks about people and things and self-expressions, experiences and situations that best represent the feeling of uncanny. And Freud talks about a short story here, The Sandman by E.T.A. Hoffman, which is very important. It's a tale that parents would tell their children that will make them go to sleep, because the story goes that the child must be asleep for the Sandman to put sand in the child's eyes. If they're not asleep, the Sandman will take out their eyes. I mean, come on. That's not a bedtime story. That's a horror story. And the protagonist of the story is a boy named Nathaniel. And his fate eventually does fall to the Sandman, losing not only his sight, but his sanity, then his life. Freud asserts that the removal of the eyes alludes to an infantile fear of castration. And you know how Freud feels about castration. He talks about it all the time. He talks about dicks and he talks about castration all the time. And but the castration complex is masked by a fear of losing a different sensitive organ, the eyes. The same theme is present in the tragedy of Oedipus, another person that Freud talks about at length, Oedipus and Oedipal complex. And as you said yourself, Freud also talks about the doppelganger in German. And of course, it was at first used by Otto Rank in 1914 in psychoanalytic literature, but then Freud writes that doppelgangers can be found in mirrors, shadows, guardian spirits, with the belief in the soul and the fear of death. The idea of the eternal soul allows us an energetic denial of the power of death. This was the first double of the body. From having been an assurance of immortality, it becomes the uncanny harbinger of death. And this is so important, considering that we are looking at a show where immortality is the main theme. And immortality and the body, the double of the body, and it becomes this uncanny harbinger of death is very important. You can see it in the adaptation of this big screen, this TV show that talks about the uncanny in a way that there's an eerie kind of church and there's an eerie kind of cave. Like everything is eerie and creepy and unfamiliar and familiar at the same time. We have the pastor who is very familiar but also unfamiliar because he's not himself. But the main question here is that uncanny, our relationship with death itself is uncanny. And that is shown in the show quite a lot. And because, as I think I mentioned it before, like there are two experiences in life. that we will all get to share together. One is birth, and the other one is death. But we talk about birth a lot, but we don't like to talk about death so much.
That's not true.
And yeah, but it's so familiar to us actually. But
Yeah,
it's also, as it is familiar, it's also unfamiliar because we haven't been through it, not yet. And after we are, familiar with it, we can't talk about it because we are gone, and
yeah,
no one is left to tell the story. And I love that Freud, for example, Freud calls uncanny as this. Uncanny is in reality nothing new or alien, but something which is familiar and old established in the mind and which has become alienated from it only through the process of repression. And repression is important in Freud a lot because he talks about the return of the repressed, and you cannot repress something forever. According to Freud, it will return in some form or another. And in this case, death is the one that's been trying. They're trying to repress death, but they can't. It will return, and it will return with a vengeance. I
that's
mean,
true.
there are a lot of other films, for example, Final Destination,
Oh,
where
yes.
they're trying to avoid death. They're trying to avoid death, and
Yeah,
that is like, no, I'm gonna kill you worse now, even worse than I would have been before. Before then, you would just have a plane crash, but now I will put a glass in your eye or like some other gruesome death. And it
that's
basically
true.
takes revenge on the living. And this show is also about what is familiar and what is unfamiliar. There is the home, there is the church. Church should be a familiar place, but then you see this angel or vampire or whatever in white robes in the church, and
That's it.
it's a very eerie looking creature, and it's unfamiliar, totally unfamiliar in a familiar setting, and everyone is like, what the hell is that? Like, what is that creature doing here? And the only ones who are not affected by it are the ones that already know that this creature exists. And so we see a lot of unfamiliarity and familiarity in the show in quite different ways. And as it says, the repression is also there, and
Yeah.
repression of the memories are also there in the show. There's Riley tries to repress the memory of the girl that he killed, and but it comes back to haunt him forever. It just, he can't escape that stare. But the only time that he feels at peace is when he's
Yeah.
dying and he sees the girl, and the girl is somehow giving a peaceful smile, and then he just poof goes away into dust and into whatever unfamiliar thing
Yeah, that
that
we don't
we
know.
don't
Yeah.
we don't know, and
No.
whatever uncanny thing that we don't know. And of course there's Aaron is also having, childhood memories that she's a domestic abuse survivor. So there's a lot of repression in the show if you look at
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah.
And then there's Father Paul, who's trying to repress the fact that he was attacked by a vampire and tries to see it as a blessing by an angel.
Yeah.
And that is just no. That's just a
No.
big no. And of course, there is the repression of sex, the thing that Freud talks about the most. We don't
Mm.
see any sex in the show.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
why?
true. Very.
Why? Why? Why do you
I
think
know.
that is?
Yeah. Yeah. I've not thought of that actually, but yeah, we
Yeah,
have Erin and I'm thinking on the in the
Riley. We see Aaron and Riley, but we don't see any sex scenes in the show.
no. No, and I
Interesting,
think
right?
they do not have sex. They just sleep because
Yeah,
they keep each other's company. In a
yeah,
way, it's nice because everything that you see in every show or film you see, there's always a sex scene.
yeah.
And
There
it
is.
just reminded me of I don't know if you've seen it, Once Upon a Time, these fairy tales
Ah,
that were
fairy
turned.
tale. I know, I know.
And that it was very good because at some point, imagine I watched True Blood and then I watched that. So, I was like, well,
Oh,
that's
the
a nice,
polar opposites.
exactly. It was like that's a nice break from so much sex and killing, and and I thought it was nice because, as you said, it was a bit of a break, and
Hmm.
maybe the childish mentality of kids are unaware of sex until they start growing up. They're aware of that. They know the parents do
Yeah.
things, but they don't know how this works. But it's true that it's kind of an offensive way, maybe because them too, when we talk about the characters, maybe they need this looking after each other without the sexual connotations there. Even though Erin is pregnant, maybe that's the only sexual connotation we have, apart from Bev going fornicators and all that. This is that's
Bev, oh my god. Do not make me. I think the monster, as I said before, the monster of the show is Bev, definitely. I mean, I'm
yes.
not talking about the vampire at all. Vampire is just there doing its nature stuff. Bev is supposed to be a human being, but she's not.
We need to dedicate time to Beth on her own because she's just got so much trauma, the poor lady, that well, Carl Jung there will find his own field, but we'll get to
She
that
has.
in
She
a
has so
moment.
many problems. She has so
A
many
lot,
problems.
but she represents a type of society that
Yeah,
we still have them
yeah,
there, and they
we
do a
do.
lot
We do.
of harm. When you're talking about, before we move to the next slide, you mentioned that how birth and death, they similar, but we don't talk about death, and yet we talk about birth. And you made me think that
Yeah, true.
even birth is that thing that you cannot avoid talking about because that's it. You give birth, and there's a lot of things going on around the birth of a person. So you have all the plannings, the preparation before it's even there. And then all the scans, all the tests, and all the building up to this moment. But then there's a moment when the child is born.
Hmm.
People do not talk about the birth experience itself. They talk about, oh, look at the baby sound, how beautiful. But I always find annoying, extremely annoying, and I understand that some women actually have a wonderful time giving birth. I don't know how, but they do. Some of them are so lucky that they just give birth. They have the contractions on time, the baby comes out on time, and they just wonderful. Okay, that wasn't my experience, and probably 98% of the population's
Yes.
experience is not like that. And it is pretty annoying when you are walking in the street and you meet finally this lady that is giving birth, and you say, how was the birth moment? We have these morbid interest on how did you give birth kind of thing to compare it.
Yes, yes, so
And
true.
they go, I'm expecting all the blood, the cuts, the stitches, the moment, the epidural. I'm waiting for those moments, those explanations. And they just go, oh, it just was wonderful, so quick. How many hours of labor do you spend? Oh, only 15. What? I mean,
Only 15?
exactly. It's like, woman, if you were lucky, if you're lucky, it'll be quick. But even then, it's a
Yeah, of course.
traumatizing moment. I love my
Me
children.
too.
I would do it all over again, if as long as I remember.
Would
But I
you?
would
Would you do it all over
not so
again?
sure. Not sure. But the thing is that the birth moment is traumatizing. Is this other person that has been there growing inside for 9 months and is
Yeah.
coming out? And sometimes, my second one came out twisted, everything that you could imagine. I had doctors down there, one pushing at the top, the other one pushing at the bottom, and now pushing. I'm like, with the epidural, I don't know where I've got my legs.
So,
And
so much pushing going on.
I love pushing, and people telling you off because you don't know how to push. And I'm like, I'm going lightheaded. And they say, well, you're not pushing right. You don't know how to push. This is my second child. I should know how to push. The thing is that you have an epidural, so you're not feeling your legs and you're pressing with your brain. Anyways, this is the kind of thing that people do not talk about. Women, you should talk about these moments because it's true.
I think so
You
too.
pull yourself, you wee yourself, your insides are the other way around, and your baby comes out of your body, and there's blood, there's all sorts of things going on there. And if you
So
look at your
visceral.
parent, it is, but that's how we are all born through all that mess, and we don't talk about it either.
Yeah.
So
We talk about the good bits, only the good bits.
Yeah, and then you're walking like John Wayne. It's like, I've got all these stitches, man, but never mind. I look
Exactly. I mean, even in media, even in film and television, you see there's a birth scene, for example. The woman is giving birth, and it's like they say like push, and she pushes like 2 times, and the baby is born. Like no.
And she loses
Babies are not born in 5 minutes. Like that doesn't happen. That I haven't given birth to anyone, but my friends have, and none of them gave birth in 5 seconds. Like that doesn't happen anytime. Like, and the thing that a lot of the women also they do like. There's a lot bloody and visceral part to birth as well, and there's this thing called postpartum depression that women also don't talk about that at all. And now they're starting to, and I think they should talking about it more because this living being is leaving your body and leaving you with sometimes extra weight and sometimes extra hormones and emotions that you can't deal with, and all of those things. And you are in a society, you are supposed to feel something for this young beautiful creature, and sometimes it's hard to do because it's unfamiliar to you, it's uncanny, and and you're supposed to feel love for that being, and I think it's a very hard thing to do. And they also, society tells you that it's a natural thing, you should feel love, you have to feel love because otherwise you're unnatural. And these are all stigmas that we should just burn to the ground and start talking about more. And a lot of women are all like either commit suicide or die because of depression after birth. And that's a really important topic, and maybe we're a little bit off topic, but maybe we can connect this to Aaron. And Aaron also has a kind of depression after losing the child, and they're even telling her that this child never existed, and it's like, what? I have been carrying this child for a few weeks now. Like, how do you tell me that it never existed in real life? And that was a really important moment. Like birth was there for a reason. I mean, they could have made Aaron a bachelor. Why not a bachelorette? Why is she a domestic abuse survivor? Why is she losing a baby? These are all important because this story is about life and death at the same time.
That's so
and
true.
It's about the familiar and the unfamiliar at the same time as well.
Yeah, it's really good that you mentioned that. Yes, because there's this parallelism, and there are grace in both at the time that you are born and the time that you live in this world as well. So yeah, it's important that this is shown, and it's frustrating when you're watching it, even if you've never experienced maternity yourself. You can imagine what it feels like, and it's this frustration is where we empathize with the characters, even if we haven't experienced those moments, as you were saying. So yeah. So let's continue with the uncanny. We are used to this, right?
Oh my God.
You
Look at that
mentioned
face. What a gorgeous looking creature that
beautiful.
is.
You
Yeah,
mentioned
how
him
beautiful.
on part 3. So you mentioned this is Stephen King's Salem's
Salem's
Lot.
Lot. Salem's Lot. Yes, I have
Exactly.
mentioned. I have
This is
mentioned.
one of my traumatizing series,
I
but
know.
I loved it. My
I
mom
love.
that keep asking why do I like horror and the gothic, and I said, "Well, mom, you made me watch this." So we'll sit there and I will watch it with vampires. Let's sit down and watch it. And I remember this freaked me out. And this is actually the kind of vampire that we are more used to, or we used to be used to, the less romanticized side of things. So we
Yeah.
were used to this, and then we were used to this. We were used to
Exorcist. Yes, we are used to
exorcism
these.
and fathers and priests to
Linda
be
Blair, Reagan.
exactly. But what we're not used to, and this is where the uncanny comes to play in Midnight Mass, is this the
Is
blending.
this? Yes, this is uncanny. This is what uncanny is in a frame. Like you
Yeah,
can you can frame this and put it on under your wall, and under it you can say Mike Flanagan uncanny, and it's like a work of art. And it is a work of art, but also it can be a work of art in the form of a painting. And
yes,
this is so weird that it could have been any other clothing. It could have been anything. It could have been a black robe. It could have been everything, but why a priest's robe on a vampire? Like, this is so uncanny. I mean, come on
absolutely,
now.
absolutely. And then
It's
we have the
lovely. It's a
bed.
lovely scene. Not lovely, but it's a lovely screen grab. It's a lovely shot.
Yes, yes, it's great how we have the one here that is gonna wait a minute. He's gonna come back. Don't go, don't go. The
Don't
door's
be
not
afraid.
open.
Don't be afraid.
And
I
then it
I
was
love
like,
that. I love that. I love that he just goes like, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, my people." Like, how can I not be afraid? Like, look at this creature. For God's sake, you're telling me that this is an angel? Like, are you mental? How is that possible?
this one
Yeah,
here.
it
Look,
is.
the Satan thing. He knows. He never talks the bloody thing, and he knows that. Look at me. I'm just an angel. I'm still
I'm an
don't. I'm
angel
still
of the
not sure how.
Lord.
Yeah. So this is absolutely uncanny. How does he talk to the priest? I don't know because he doesn't speak. This thing doesn't speak.
I
So
think
yeah,
I think they are. I think they communicate, like
telepathically
telepathically or something like that. Yeah, I
probably.
think
But
so
you
because we never see it speak.
no, never.
Yeah, we never
No,
see it
we never.
speak. Yeah, it's
And
just a
yet,
voiceless creature.
he can go there in the church, and so by Flanagan by doing this also is breaking some stereotypes about vampires because he's actually inside the church. It should be burning right
Yeah,
now, and he's not.
exactly.
He's
He
wearing his
should be
jacket,
burning.
and
He
it's
should be
not. And he's
burning, not being there in a priest's robe and just casually chilling. He should be burning because
yeah,
he's in a church. I
that's
mean,
right. But
he breaks
then
the rule. Yeah.
he also, you normally see this creature that it can be very animalistic, and when he's
Hmm.
feeding, it doesn't really, even if you look at him, it continues feeding. It's very primitive, and yet it presents itself like, look at me, so like a coherent being. So he's got these two sides, and it really puzzles me. So again, even the behavior of him is uncanny because is an animal, is a monster. It behaves by instincts, but at the same time, he's playing the rules of the game of social game by being
Yeah.
there. How weird is that? So that makes you so uncomfortable. That's the uncanny again in there, in the behavior even.
Exactly. I mean, this creature can kill everyone in that room, like
Yes.
everybody, but he doesn't do that. He listens to Father Paul, and he basically makes these people makes these people into vampires like himself.
Yeah.
And also that may the speak to the feeling of feeling alone, that
Hmm.
even a creature like him can feel alone in this world. And maybe that's why he made Father Paul a vampire as well, because solitary life is not for anyone, like is not for even vampires. And maybe he just wanted someone to share immortality, the eternity with him. And
Hmm.
then this man comes along, Father Paul, and he feels maybe sorry for him, maybe he sees him as a kind of like companion, but he actually accepts to go with him on a crate to Crockett Island. I
That's
mean,
true.
he could refuse at any moment. He could leave at any moment, but he doesn't. It
That's
doesn't. So
true.
that speaks volumes to me about the eternal life being not so fun by yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I've not thought of that either. You're making me think a lot in these two episodes. It's so it's so true. Yes,
You
I've
make
not
me
thought of
think a
that.
lot. I don't like it.
No, no, I love it because yeah, well, no, I'm thinking it down. Damn, I didn't think of that myself. But no, no, it's so true. I've not thought of uh, from from the side of the monster because I saw this animal instinct all the time. I not thought if at any point he had some kind of rational thinking and even emotional, rational, I'm not sure, but emotional for sure not, but maybe yes. It doesn't show any loving care. Why, as you said, what is their relationship with Father Paul, and why him and not someone else? What was he doing there in the cave in the first place? Is he really a
Yeah.
fallen angel, or is he a fallen something of a form? Probably yes. What was he doing there on his own? Was he about to die as well? Maybe they could do a second part of Midnight Mass and tell us the story of this thing, of this vampire.
Yeah, why not?
So, hey, there are possibilities if they want it, because we have this open end as well that we don't know what's going to happen with it. Survivors. So, if they want it,
Yeah.
they can continue with this, and then maybe tell us the story of the vampire and what happens to him at the end, and if there are any more like him, or if maybe he was the last one of his species. So much to
Yeah.
so many things, so many questions that come in your head.
Exactly. So many questions unanswered.
Mm,
But maybe that was the purpose all along, to
yeah.
leave us, question what this creature was. And I think we talked about this in episode 1 or 2. We talked about, like, maybe he is an angel. I mean, he can be an
Yes.
angel. The TV show never says for sure that it's a vampire. I
No.
mean, it's just up in the air. It's for us to decide if it's a vampire or an angel. And
Yeah.
what difference? I mean, if you read the Old Testament, as I said before, there is no difference actually between an angel and a vampire. They are
Yeah.
wrathful, and Michael slays, and he's the commander of the army of God. And there's a lot of violence committed by angels in a lot of holy books, actually.
It's true.
And so you question if it's really an angel or not. It could be, why not?
So again, that's the uncanny there, as we were saying before.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
uncanny, because we are not. We are expecting an angel to be kind of like from a Michelangelo painting, like naked and just like with wings and like a baby, but we're not expecting this at
Yes,
all. Like we are not
agree.
expecting this like creature from Salem's Lot to to be an angel. And we like, for example, we when we talk about an angelic smile, an angelic face, we're not looking at this. We're not talking about this. We're talking
Yes,
about something beautiful. And so this is uncanny for us
that's
regarding an angel, how an angel should look.
that's so true. Yes, so I think now it's clear. If anybody had doubts about what the uncanny is, now I think with these examples, I think it's a lot clearer. Absolutely.
This
And
is uncanny.
yeah, it is. And now this brings us to identity, which is then, and we've talked about it somehow already, the perception that we have about ourselves. And so my own
Mhm.
perception about me, but also the perception that the others have of me. And between us all the different points of view, so this is what I would like to talk about. And again, I'm going to mention again Tracy, because she has this quote this time on Kristeva, and she talks about the self as being a liminal entity during this process of abjection. Its boundaries break down, it becomes a sire of contested territory. And in doing so, central ideas of identity, autonomy, and agency are called into question. So is this moment of where we object our bodies. She's talking here about the body and the perception that we have our own body being ourselves, and if we are trapped in our bodies as well, and that we are limited in physically, but also when we break down these boundaries, and how then our identity also changes. Um, but there's also Carl Jung talking about Jung again and the shadow self, I think, in the series, where this is a translation because I'm reading currently. This is in English as well. Is Meeting the Shadow, and this is
Mhm.
the Spanish version because I also do programs in Spanish, and I thought, well, I'll read it in Spanish to talk about this in another place about it. But in that book, we have that this is a free translation from one of the parts here that says that each of us projects a shadow. This is a quote from Carl Jung, that each of us projects a shadow that is darker, more compact, the less embodied it is in our conscious life, and that the shadow
Mhm.
constitutes, for all intents and purposes, an unconscious impediment that spoils our best intentions. Now, this is being translated from German to Spanish, and now I've done the translation from Spanish to English. So it could well be that the English version of the translation is not exactly like this. So beware that this is two-way direction translation. So yes, I think in the show, if we think from Kristeva's point of view, the body, but also we think of Carl Jung, the shadow self, I think we
Yeah.
pretty much cover here the this idea of how the characters portray themselves, but also how the others talk about them. I don't know what you think before I move to the images. What would you like to add about
Well, I
identity
would
and?
I would like to add about identity. Well, identity is important because it's about the self, and the
Mhm.
other is the opposite of the self. And the condition and the quality of otherness,
Yeah.
of being the other, is the state of being different from and alien to the social identity of a person and to the identity of the self, myself. And I think the term otherness
Mm.
identifies and refers to the characteristics of who and what of the other, which are, distinct from the symbolic order of things, from the real, and from the aesthetic, and from political philosophy to from social norms and social identity, and from the self. So therefore, the condition of otherness is a person's non-conformity to and with the social norms of society. And the otherness is the condition of disenfranchisement, political exclusion, affected either by the state or by the social institutions invested with the corresponding social political power. And therefore, the imposition of otherness alienates the person labeled as the other from the center of society and places them at the margins of society for being the other. And other is the the whole talk about other starts with Edmund Husserl, another a very important name when talking about otherness. Husserl is an important name, and well, in this case, we have a lot of others. We have a lot of people in the margins on the show.
Yeah.
When you talk about it that way, we have Riley, who is pushed to the margins because he was in the prison for killing someone, and then we have the creature that was that's already in the margins because it's the other, and
Yeah.
it's the ultimate other. And we have anyone who is different because there is a close knit society there is a close knit religious society. And we talked about Sarah before, the
Yeah.
doctor doesn't believe in anything. She's an atheist, as we can see, and she's a queer person. And
Mm.
these are all important because that becomes a queer and other is very
Yeah.
interrelated. So we have others in the show where when they decide that they do not believe anymore, Aaron and Sarah's mother are also pushed to the margins. They are
Yeah.
pushed from Bev's social circle of firm believers, and they're pushed to, even Father Paul is pushed to the margins by Bev by the end of the series as the other. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of others on the show. So we can go to the next slide. I don't know what's awaiting us. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. It's difficult to separate identity from otherness
Yeah,
because we can only define our identities when we put them, we contrast them with
of
other
course,
people's
of course,
identities. But
of
yeah, no,
course.
you're so right. I think we need to recuperate that idea again when we talk about otherness in another session. But
Hmm.
definitely, it influences identity. But yes, I was thinking of identity more from a simple point of view, without leaving the otherness aspect on one
Hmm.
side right now. Although we were saying before, it's difficult sometimes to divide things so clearly because in the Gothic
Of
everything
course, of
blends.
course. Yeah.
But when we just think about the identity, the construct of what people see from us, we have family and community, for example, and then we have self-perception. So when we're talking about, you think about Riley, you mentioned before, and his family, the relationship with his family, and the
Hmm.
expectations that the family have from him, about him. He's there. He's been dragged into this church because he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't even know if he
Yeah.
believes anymore. So that's
Yeah,
again,
I
that's
know.
identity, is what my family makes me. And they have these very awkward conversations all the time. The mom is trying to, let's go to church, and he's like, really? And the father is always, you can tell he's not. His expectations regarding his son are higher, and he's been disappointed. So all those things, as a child, you don't want to disappoint your parents. So your identity
Yeah,
starts
correct.
building up with all those elements. And he's been dragged there against his will. He's an adult already, but he wants to please his parents. So all those elements bring and make you who you are, which is actually what Carl Jung in his followers nowadays, people who still use Carl Jung for their therapy and for the investigations, the Jungian students, they say, when you're talking about yourself, who are you
Yeah.
really, and what all this, your true self gets repressed Because if you doesn't
Exactly.
please the
Exactly.
people around you, then it's when you're creating all these dark sides. Then maybe all these repressed people are actually showing their real identities in this so extreme strange situation with this monster, which then we'll be talking about self-perception, like Beth, that her
Exactly.
perception is like, I'm such a good person, you're all corrupt and you're all gonna die because this is what the Bible says. And she always backs up her arguments and turns things to her
Yeah,
own
true, true.
sake. But we don't really know where she comes from. We don't really know her
Yeah, we have
background.
no idea who she is beyond her belief systems, and it is so interesting. And well, considering identity, psychology today has, of course, published a lot of articles on this subject. And identity includes like many relationship between,
Mhm,
people cultivate, such as their identity as a child, as a friend, as a, parent, as a partner. And it involves external characteristics over which a person has little or no control, such as, height and socioeconomic class. And
mhm,
identity also encompasses political opinions, moral attitudes, and religious beliefs, all of which guide the choices one makes on a daily basis. And in this case, Bev is a character that is driven by her religious beliefs. Her identity is formed around belief, but it's such a belief that it's a blind kind of faith. It's not, she's not thinking clearly. She's not thinking that, for example, after she sees that Father Paul killed the town drunk, she just goes into like, we should clean this up, we should bury this body. She doesn't go, oh no, this is a sin, you killed someone, which you
exactly.
should have done. As a,
Yeah,
as a religious person, that is the first thing that she should have done, but she doesn't do that because she has this blind faith to Father Paul. And
yeah,
because he believes that this is an angel, because he believes that this is a miracle, she also believes that this is a miracle. And this is the
mm,
Monsignor that was sent to them by God. And so apart from her being a religious person, overtly religious person, we know nothing about Bev. We know if we know a lot of things about a lot of people on the show. This is a character. This is a show that's character driven. There are a lot of characters. Of course, sometimes it's very hard to keep track of who's who on the show. But Bev is one of the standouts. But we have no idea who she is. We don't know. We just know that she believes blindly, and that in her beliefs, she can even sacrifice Father Paul when it comes down to it. And
yeah,
when we look at family and community, as I said before, identity is formed within the community, within the social order. I mean,
mm,
we come to this world with some characteristics, of course, but our entire identity is formed around the people that we live with, people
yeah,
that are around us. I am this way because of the people that raised me, and because of the society that I'm around. And so family and community is important in that way, while like when structuring your identity is really important in this aspect. And Riley, even though he loses faith at one point, after coming back to family and community, even he starts questioning, if I really believe. I mean, maybe I
yes,
didn't lose my faith. It's within reach. Maybe it is within reach. And Aaron, whose entire persona is formed around the community, she starts questioning the community after she loses the child. And these are all important aspects of identity within the story, I think, within the narrative.
Yeah, so true. I mean, from a Jungian point of view, again, Beth is the this personification of all the repressed things that a person could be, as repressed as you could be. And because we
She's,
don't see it as a loving person. She doesn't love Paul. She doesn't even love herself.
she
And
doesn't
she
love
just,
anyone.
when you criticize, again, she looks at the Erin when she's pregnant, and you can see the look on her face. To get there, you had to do something first, and you can see how repressed she is, and
She is
that is
repressed. Yeah.
all that's turned out into a monstrosity. So she's even accepting this
As I
immortality.
said before, there will always be a return of the repressed. There will always
Yeah,
be one. And
that's so
Return of
true.
the Repressed is the end of the entire series, where she goes ballistic and she goes on a killing spree, basically.
Yes,
And well, it had to happen at one point.
but she
You
doesn't love
cannot
anybody.
stay repressed. She
She
doesn't
doesn't
kill
have.
anybody, but she orders
No, no,
people to kill people. And
no, no.
so she's a kind of mass murderer.
I'm saying that she doesn't love anybody. No, that she kills everybody with just speaking, which is
Yeah,
but she doesn't actually show love towards anybody,
yeah,
and
she
that
doesn't.
is someone who, if you took it to the chair and put it there, and a psychologist would have a lot of work to do with it, because
Yeah.
he would find a lot of rubbish.
She has no
But
love left in her, no love
we don't
whatsoever.
even know at some point exactly what her past childhood was like.
Yeah.
So for her to become this monster, we
It had to be terrible in
yeah,
order for her to end up this way.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right. So we've been talking about the uncanny and the identity. And as we were suspecting, we don't have time for the supernatural and the otherness, but we've mentioned otherness and the other. So that's something we can then elaborate further next time.
Yeah, of course.
But people, supporters, thank you very much. Supporters, coffee, Alice in Gothic Land 1402. Let's do that. And thank you again to Che, because this was so enlightening and
Thank
again so
you for having me.
fantastic. No, it's been great, really. It just made me think of a lot of the stuff to keep doing research with a little candle.
I will never leave this. I will lead my life with this forever. Now I will
It
go
might bring
everywhere. I will go to my lectures at school like this.
you good luck. You never know. It might bring you good
You
luck.
never know. You never know.
Feeling going,
True.
what are you doing? I'm just thinking about the next program with Alicia, and this is inspiration,
They're like, "What are you doing with that?" And I'm like, "What if there is a electricity cut? What happens then? I have
It's
this. What do you have?"
oh yeah, it's wonderful. It's great that we can also be funny, talking about serious subjects, have some fun.
Yeah,
So please, people, support, but also follow to
true.
share
This way.
Twitter and Instagram, and follow everything, because she does a lot of other things that are very interesting. And have you started your new job, by the way? I never asked. Did you start
Yeah,
your
I started my new job. Yes, that's true. I started as a research and teaching assistant at the university. So, uh, as I said, I will go to the lectures like this, and they
you
will
don't
be
know?
like, "She's weird. She's weird." Yeah, but joking aside, it was such a pleasure to be on your show again, and I had so much fun. We should
Thank you again.
do this again sometimes for sure. I mean, we will talk about otherness and
Yes,
supernatural. We have a lot of things to talk about, guys, folks. Listen
And
to us more.
we need to spread the voice a little bit more, and we're going to be doing, if you keep an eye on the next days, we're going to be doing a live session where you can come and ask questions, and then that's a lot of learnings again for you. Personalized classes, it'll be live, and we'll just have to agree on the day, but for now we just give you the heads up so you can start planning and thinking, and throw some questions. You can just send us anything you would like to talk about that we might have missed, or a point of view, which is also very interesting. People always see things that we might have not seen.
Yeah. I love that. I love when that happens.
Yeah, me too, because you learn so much more as well, and then you just start discovering more things about what we're talking about as well. It's awareness. It's all about awareness. So this is all my links. The new logo, yippee! Let's remove that one.
I love that.
Thank you. That was, I had just an inspiration, and I thought, let's change things around. Let's make the message clearer, and that was part of that process. There we go. Right.
Yeah,
So
I love the message.
thank you. Well, it's all about identity. I think Alice in Gothic Land is turning into that space. The Gothic is very broad, as we've been talking about, and you described so well in episode 3. But my mission, we all have a mission. So I guess my mission here is to help others to figure out their identity when they go into the dark side. Not be afraid. Don't be afraid of scary stories, or feeling that you're angry with something, or talking about death, and talking about uncomfortable bodily things, because there's actually parts of our identity too, and we don't want to become Beths. So let's talk about these things that are uncomfortable, so we don't become monsters, and share with others. So it's always good fun as well. So, well, thank you very much, Tugce. I'm really looking forward to the supernatural elements and more
Thank
about
you.
and characters. And when we talk about the characters, we will talk a lot about Beth. The characters that have a voice, and the characters that don't have a voice,
as always,
and why they are like that. Yeah. Okay then. So thanks a lot, and see you next episode. Episode 5 will be the next one.
See you.
See you all, Gothic horror fans. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thank you.